Good morning. We'll get this meeting underway here at 8:30 in the morning. 1.1, additions to the agenda. Councillor Cunningham.
So I would like to add an item to closed session, personnel ATIA section 20, please.
Any discussion on that? Okay. Anything else? Councillor Cunningham?
I would also like to add a Division 5 update under council and committee reports, please.
Councillor Woodstock?
Like to move the agenda as amended.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Okay, let's get on to the approval of the minutes. 2.1, regular council meeting, January 27th. Councillor Cunningham.
I will make the motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes of January 27th, 2026.
Any concerns or all in favor? Carried. 2.2, special council meeting minutes, February 3rd. Councillor Woodstock.
Like to make a motion to approve special council meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2026 as presented.
Any discussion, concerns? All in favor? Carried. Okay, number 3, appointments, nothing. Number 4, infrastructure, no reports. I'd like to just touch a little bit on this. I wouldn't mind seeing some reports in here. What I'd be looking for, if it's, is, I mean, what are the graders doing? We got, we have a bunch of, or not a bunch, a couple culverts that we're putting liners in. We need to know where we're at on that kind of stuff. That would be good to talk about here. What the grader guys are doing if when they're not working, etc. Just a thought. Anybody else got a concern on that? Or? No. Okay. Community services, no report. Corporate services, 6.1. 2026 budget approval, budget project approvals and operating budget follow-up. Good morning.
Good morning, Council.
You got the floor.
Thank you. So today marks the next step in the budget process. We've had several meetings at this point that have talked about budget items. There was November 25th, we looked at setting the stage and proposed projects. December 9th, we did the interim budget and carry forward projects. January 27th included an overview of the 2026 proposed operating budget, and February 3rd was a budget walkthrough at a special council meeting. There were several items during these meetings that have been brought forward for follow-up, and they're going to be addressed today. In addition, proposed projects as reviewed by council are being brought forward for approval at this meeting. And then finally, administration has identified a few items that require further council direction with respect to the operating budget to prepare it for council's approval. So when we look at proposed projects, Appendix A outlines the proposed project listing as amended by council at the February 3rd special council meeting. There were 2 projects that were originally proposed that were removed from that listing. The first one was the heater replacement at the old Three Hills shop. This project has been removed pending further direction from council regarding the shop yard and existing buildings. We also removed the Armadillo traffic counters. This is one where we have one set that were purchased during 2025, and council determined that it made more sense to delay the purchase of an additional set of these traffic counters until we've had more information and really put a value to the information that they are collecting. There were 2 projects that were requiring more information from council's discussion last week. And so we've got 2 managers in the room today, or 2 other staff in the room today that are going to talk about those items so that council can look at what that scope is and whether or not those projects should be included in the final project budget. The first one is 1-ton snow blades, and we were looking at adjusting the scope of this project. And I've got Mike Conkin, Operations Superintendent, here to talk about that.
Good morning, Council. After February 3rd's meeting, administration went back and gathered some more quotes and some different options for 1-ton blades for our snow removal program. So following that review, we had quotes come in for $27,000, approximately $27,000. This entails a full replacement of those blades, both of them. So what administration would be recommending is to decrease the budget from $55,000 currently to $30,000 to allow for contingency. When we prepared these project sheets, we made them with the best available quotes we had at the time. That being said, if that $55,000 was approved, we still would have been going out, or administration still would have been going out and trying to find that best priced product that would meet our operational needs. So likely the price that we would have spent for that project is still what we came back with those quotes here. So
That's a little better price than what we were first seeing. One of the things I like to hear, and it's been bothering me for a long time, is I've seen some of the stuff that's happened prior to where money has been wasted. I'm glad you're looking at everything, because we're looking at everything. And that's why we're going line budget, and we'll go line by line, and we're gonna keep an eye on this. When we were down at the shop the other day, and we saw, or I saw, I'm gonna say pieces of equipment that were bought and not been used, sitting there, and now they're going to auction. I have a problem. So I'm glad you're catching this stuff, and the more stuff you can catch, the more stuff we can look at and get council a better feeling for how things are running. We're into that. Thanks.
through the chair, so on that topic, I think this is a good time to bring up from our 2026 capital equipment program. So we had a wood chipper on that program for replacement, and we budgeted $35,000 for that. When we got our quotes back, those quotes came in higher than that. So at that time, administration and the shop looked into our wood chipper, seeing what options are available, and we are going in the route of rebuilding that wood chipper for about $10,000 now. So you'll see that in your capital or biweekly updates in your council report when we get to that rebuild portion of that machine. So we are always cautious of what we're spending and where it's going, and trying to find the most efficient way to spend the dollars and make sure that we are keeping our equipment tip-top shape.
Thanks, Mike. Any other concerns? Councillor Hoppins?
Yeah, and I just appreciate you looking into that for us. Thank you very much. And I also want to make it kind of known, my opinion is that if something goes sideways throughout the year, it's not that we're not in favor of replacement or repairing or, I feel that it would be your job to come and approach us to say, hey, we need this piece of equipment throughout the year, and no, it's not in the budget, no, we didn't have it on the proposed project list, but unexpected items do pop up, and we're not opposed to approving them at that time. So don't, later on in the year, if something goes sideways, let us know. Thank you.
Councillor Olson?
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks also, and just so you guys know, I mean, we're not trying to pick any department apart or person apart or whatever. We're just asking questions, and a lot of us are new on this council, so we're just trying to build that level of trust. Going, seeing some of the stuff, doing that tour, all that kind of stuff, interacting, finding out why, reasons why, just builds that level of trust. So yeah, so we don't always have to go out there or question all these things. So no, I appreciate that as well, and thanks for looking into that. And then we are getting new blades, correct? It's just the control part we're leaving.
Through the chair. So the quotes that came back, that's the full motor lift system, just the systems that are on the truck, the mounting brackets for the truck, the electrical components that are in the truck will stay and be the existing stuff. So this gives us all new units, ready to roll, blades wide out, all that, so.
Everyone okay? Yep, okay.
Through the chair, we'll put it up when we're kind of done talking about this next project, but I've updated in Appendix A, the project budget for that item to $30,000, and I'll bring it up to the screen just so council can see that. And then there is a motion with this report to approve projects, and then that adjustment will be reflected in that approval as well. So the other item that was up for more discussion is the generator maintenance program, and I have John McKiernan, Manager of Utilities, here to talk to that item.
Good morning, Reeve, members of council. So this morning here, yeah, just to kind of go a little bit further into detail on the generator maintenance program. There was a question if we did do any of our own maintenance on these, and just to answer that one, we do. We do weekly and monthly type checks. Most of it is visual. Monthly or weekly, we do run it just to make sure that the battery power is there, everything's working as it should, kind of thing. So we do those kind of things, but this maintenance program is basically from a certified technician. They'll come in and they actually do more of the in-depth type thing. They'll run it under load for approximately about an hour, and with their equipment, they can diagnose any issues, any problems, to make sure that piece of equipment is going to be running when we actually need it. The generators are an important part of our distribution system. During power outages, things like that. We rely on that to maintain our pressure within our systems to keep that water flowing. If we didn't have those and we had power outages where we weren't keeping that positive pressure in our pipelines, then we run into quite a more of an issue where if we lose positive pressure, we have the chances of introducing any contaminants into our water, which would then force us onto boil water, which then over time, the amount that we have to turn water over, labor, would probably amount to a cost of checking on a generator. That's not to say that this is 100% foolproof, right? I mean, it is a mechanical piece of equipment, so there's always failures that can happen, but that's kind of the gist of it. This one is, like I said, it's a little more in depth of what we do. There's training, like we don't have the training of these. Mostly what it's gonna do is check the electrical components, the transfer switches, that sort of thing. I mean, we can look at the fuel level, or not the fuel level, I guess we have a couple diesel ones, but we can also look at coolant levels and oil levels and grease and that sort of thing. That's what we do, but this one's going to look at, you know, the actual generator and what makes it tick and stuff like that. It's, you know, power-wise and stuff, so.
Any questions, concerns? I guess when it first came out, when we were looking at this, some of the comments was, is there any particular reason why our mechanics can't look at it? But the other side of the coin too is when you start saying electrical and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure they're not trained in that.
Through the Reeve, that's correct, and that's where we were going with this one. Our utility operators, as well as our mechanics, they definitely can like change the oil, change the filters and stuff like that, but this is getting more into that, you know, electrical, you know, journeyman type stuff to do those testing with it. And we don't have the equipment to diagnose that stuff as well.
Councillor Olson?
Yeah, I can see that this gives you guys also a certain level of, you know, insurance as well, that somebody else beside yourselves has looked at it and has deemed it, you know, fit to run for the next period of time that we need it to run. So yeah, I can see this just kind of a little bit of insurance there as well.
Right. And through the Reeve, I just wanted, this was a pilot thing, that's why it's coming as a project, and then we'll see the benefits after we do it, and maybe it won't be included in the operation, we don't see a benefit to it, but if we do, then it would be into the operation budget as well, kind of thing, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so that concludes the questions that were outstanding as far as proposed projects. Obviously, if council has further questions, we're completely able to answer those as well. When we get to the end of today's report, we'll bring up that project, the summary, so that when we look at approval, if council is willing to do that today, then that listing will be updated with that updated budget for the 110 snow blades. Then we look at the operating budget. The biggest outstanding item in terms of council's information requests was about the roadside mowing level of service. And I've got Fallon Sherlock, Manager of Parks and Ag Services, to answer any follow-up questions related to this expense line item.
Good morning, Council. So I prepared a brief debrief on the program just to help provide some context to some of the questions that were asked last week. So we as a municipality and as the owner of the roadsides have a responsibility to manage the vegetation in the county-owned ditches, both to our residents in the local ag community as well as according to the Provincial Weed Control Act. In a way, clean, well-managed ditches are the crop of the county. Unlike farmers who are able to complete multiple herbicide applications to a field in a season, the county will typically only get a single pass every 3 years. For this reason, we fully embrace a multi-mode of action integrated weed management approach. Prior to the arrival of kochia, we had found that our 3-year rotation of residual herbicide was enough to combat most invasive weed species in combination with some spot spraying on the more difficult to control species. With the arrival of kochia, we increased the rotation of our herbicides to utilize different active ingredients from different groups. This helped a bit, but the continued drought proved that kochia had the advantage. Following many complaints by residents and our own surveillance on an increasing kochia population changes, that we brought forward changes to the ASB and thoroughly explored those together. Kochia only reproduces by seed, and though they cross-pollinate, which increases their ability to develop herbicide resistance faster, they have a 2-year seed viability. This meaning that seed production is key in controlling these species. This resulted in the ASB recommending to increase the chemical budget to allow for more diverse herbicide mixes and increase spot spraying, as well as increasing mechanical control measures through twice annual mowing. This mowing keeps the plants shorter and more stressed, reduces the number of seeds produced, and lengthens the window for herbicide control. At this point, we have 1 more year on the existing contract with our roadside mowing contractor before we re-tender in 2027. We have seen a positive effect of this program adjustment over the last 2 years, as complaints for kochia have dropped to 0 in 2025. And our internal surveillance has shown lower populations and less seed production. Given kochia's physiological characteristics, the longer we can reduce its seed production, the more effective we'll be at reducing the overall population. This past year, we implemented a feedback survey on the roadside mowing program, which was open to all residents from June through October and advertised online in the Three Hills Capital and in the Fall County newsletter. 36 residents felt strongly enough about the program to respond to this survey. The survey showed that 75% felt that the mowing program had some impact on the weed population. We continually consult with our counterparts in other municipalities and have found that among those with kochia actively in their county, they all implement a method of mowing ditches at a minimum of twice per year, if not more. This is in tandem with their own spraying programs. For these reasons, the ASB motioned unanimously to support the continuation of the roadside mowing program twice annually at the January 14th meeting. We feel that fully committing to an integrated management approach, collectively utilizing both chemical and mechanical controls, is the best practice for weed control in Kneehill County ditches. This includes the twice annual mowing program for best control of this issue. Are there any further questions from council regarding this program?
Well, I guess one of the things is that I have a couple questions. Number one, I'd like to see some measurable quantities on this. I don't really see a pile of kochia up in our area. I see it in our fields, but I don't see it in our ditches. there's a big difference between wants and needs. It's $360,000 roughly.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of money. And I'm not saying that we need 2 cuts, or I'm not saying to get rid of anything, but I mean, I'd like to see what it's actually accomplishing. We've had trucks, we got a couple spray trucks. I'm pretty sure we can do more than just a third of the county with that, with 2. We used to do a third of the county all the time with 1. I've had some ratepayers that, in my area, that are in favor of the 2 cuts, and a lot that aren't in favor of any cuts. So I need to know a little more, or I'd like to see how this is measurable with this COSHA, what it's actually doing. And that's one of our concerns. Councillor Anderson?
I also have a few concerns in that area as well. I was at the January 14th ASB. I wasn't completely unanimous support. Obviously, you know that from me because I've spoke here so many times about that. I didn't unanimously support that. I do have problems with accepting that the mowing is the reason for the complete change in the COSHA status with no complaints, because what else was changing it? And you've heard me many times at this council speak before, what else was changed in that period of time? We discussed gravel pulls that weren't sprayed after they did it. We discussed a lot of things. A lot of those things have changed. We haven't done those big projects now. Is it the mowing doing this, or is it some of the things we've corrected also? I'm not saying that I'm completely against the mowing program in some ways, but some ways I have to say, I know a lot about COSHA too. I live with the problem around all the time. Do you know how much a COSHA plant grows in 2 months after you mow it?
Absolutely.
We go out there and then we grade it and we spread those weeds around. Oftentimes our roads are rougher after they're done plowing up these weeds because we're using the graders as a sprayer instead of addressing the problem. I would be more in favor of this program if we went out there and caught the immature weeds and did something about it. Maybe we wouldn't have to have a twice annual thing for so long. We're trusting a thing that, you know, I have to argue with the fact that this mowing and then leaving it for 2 months is a big savior for the COSHA problem. I just have that problem.
Councillor Woodstock?
Well, my assumption, well, it's not an assumption. The reason we're doing twice or 2 mows is to extend the season for the chemicals to be able to be applied. They are chemical resistant, but we have a combination of chemicals that we use, which if not totally kills it, it certainly suppresses it. But it won't suppress it if the plant is already producing seed and it's 1.5 foot high or whatever. So if you mow it down, you put it under stress, you have the opportunity to go in there and add additional chemical, well, spread out the timeline to add the additional chemical and hopefully take care of the problem. Like the manager has said from Ag Services, it's a seed issue. That's how we're going to try to control it, and how better to control seed is by mowing it and then having the additional opportunity to go in there with chemicals and destroy the plant. Currently, according to what I hear, it's working. I don't want to see it happen where we stop doing it and the problem actually, well, it's not going to double, triple. Who knows how bad it'll get if you don't have a decent program to take care of these weeds. I'm totally in support of mowing twice. The costs, yeah, it costs, but it also costs us more if the problem gets away and then we have to resort to further mitigation methods. So I'm totally in support of the program, and I think you're right. It is our responsibility to take care of the right-of-ways, and that's how we're doing it. And I would like to continue doing it, keep an eye on it. If it does turn out that what we're doing isn't helping, well, then I guess we'll have to look at a different way. But currently, from what I can tell, it is helping, it is working, and for us to back away from something that's working to say that it's costing too much, the costs are going to be worse if the problem gets worse. And chemicals aren't cheap, so that's my view on it. And I'm glad that you don't have kochia up there, but we sure as hell do at home.
Oh, I know, but I didn't say we didn't. I said it's in our fields.
Oh, yeah, but ours is in the fields and it is in the ditches. It's right on the side of the road.
Counselor Olson?
Yeah, I'm totally against kochia, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm not, but I do find it very difficult to quantify the effectiveness of it. Not saying I'm not saying it can't help or hasn't helped, or I still have a problem with quantifying how, if, like Councillor Anderson said, if, it's actually doing what we think it's doing, and just because we had 12 less complaints about it, is that worth spending the money on it still? The other thing is, we can spray it. It's in farmers' fields. People that have poor land, or I'm gonna get in trouble for that too, but I mean, more arid, drier, yeah, more, are gonna have a bigger problem with it, and that's happening down south. But I just, it's a lot of money. I know as oil field, we spray it, and if we don't get it at the right time, we have to respray it. It all depends on the season, the drought conditions or the non-drought conditions as to when it's, gonna bolt out of the ground, and so it's not the same time all the time. So if we mow ahead of that and it comes up after, did we really do anything? I'm not saying that the mowing isn't gonna catch some of it at, but we can't mow it all within a day or two. So I just have problems with the quantifying, sorry.
Counselor Cunningham?
So I noticed you mentioned that we had 36 residents that replied to the survey. It's just another reminder to our residents, please fill out these surveys. We want to hear from you. So it is a little frustrating when we do put these out, and I mean, we have a large population, so 36 is pretty low. So I think all of us, I know for myself, I've reached out to a few folks that I know, and it's a real mixed, I'd say 75% are in favor of the twice, but it's hard to know. So I hope people take the opportunity to let us know what their thoughts are. But I just want to go, maybe this is more of a budget question, but I think I heard you say earlier that we do have a current contract for another year. So, I mean, I guess, is it a moot point right now because we probably can't get out of that contract for this year? And then I'm just curious, how we build that into the budget, if we have a contract, but if it wasn't approved, I'm just not sure how we do contracts without knowing ahead of time that it's going to be approved in the budget item, if that makes sense.
So that contract is an extension contract. It has yet to be signed. So that is basically ensuring that we don't have to go back out to tender for another year and securing us pricing. With that, if we did make adjustments to the program, we would have to go back out to tender. And so we're not guaranteed that by only going once that we would be half that price. It may be an increased number.
One other question I have is, what are our measures? How are we measuring whether this is a success or not? Is there something in place?
Within the kochia numbers?
Correct.
Yes, so we do our internal surveillance. We don't have specific measurables on, this many roads have this many kilometers of kochia. Complaints are our main source of information when we come to anything weed related. The number that we get is very specific. And prior to us having kochia in the county, I rarely heard anything about ditches and weed concerns, you know, other than the odd patches, and mostly it was neighbor concerns. When we started getting kochia, I started getting phone calls and having people walk up to me at events and continually getting that feedback. After we've been implementing this, everybody that I've talked to that had those complaints has given us positive feedback on the controls. And I completely agree with Councillor Anderson. We can't say for sure that this is only the mowing, because we did increase our spraying. We doubled the amount of spraying that we've been doing. We do still do our third of the county broadcast spraying, but we also have spot sprayed at least another third of that in the last 2 years. So we are increasing, basically throwing everything we can at this problem, because it is such an issue. And as with everything, more chemical isn't always the solution. We want to try to use as many different avenues as possible, because that's how integrated weed and pest management works.
Councillor Hoppins.
Thank you for your presentation. For the individuals in my area that I've talked to, I'd say probably 90% are in favor of the double mowing. And they feel that spraying and mowing is the most effective. One question I have is, with the signing the contract extension, when would that contract have to be signed?
At this point, before the season starts, the contractor would like to know as soon as possible, because if they're not having us do that double mowing, if we have to go to retender, they need to know that, and they need to
Right.
plan appropriate for their season and their staff.
So if that, sorry to interrupt, that contract, if we sign it for a double mow this year, does that guarantee him double mow for next year?
No.
When
At-
would next year's contract have to be signed? Is
Next
that-
year's contract would be retendered as soon as we have budget approval for next year.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions or concerns? Thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely.
So I think from council's perspective, what we need to hear is whether the second mow is included in this year's budget, or whether we need to adjust something in that regard.
Councillor Woodstock?
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we need a motion on the floor to determine whether we're gonna go with the double mow. So I would like to move that we continue doing the double mow process for at least this year, and then we'll look at the tenders for the following year.
I'd like this to be a recorded vote. Any concerns or questions on the motion? All in favor?
Go ahead, call it.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Tie defeated. In favor?
In favor? And Counselor Olson was a no.
Opposed?
Through the chair, my understanding to that is that we would then bring back the budget updated with the anticipation of one mow. Likely, there will need to be some contingency in the operating budget, as we'll need to then retender the entire process to do one mow rather than two. And we won't know exactly what that cost will come in at until the budget is actually approved and until we can go out for a retender.
Want to say that again?
Through the chair, with that motion saying that we are not including a double mow in the budget, we will need to go back and update the operating budget to include, from my understanding, that we're going back to one mow, unless council has further direction. But that means we will now need to go back to retender the entire process for one mow, and we will likely need a bit of a contingency put into that operating budget to accommodate what that retender amount might look like. The existing contract doesn't allow us to drop down to one mow. It requires us to fully retender the process entirely.
Okay. Councillor Cunningham?
And just to be, for clarity for myself, like I think it was mentioned earlier, just because the vote went to go to one mow does not mean it's gonna necessarily be half the cost. We don't know that at this point. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody okay with that? Clear as mud? Okay.
Okay, the next item is looking at water distribution and bulk water rates. The proposed budget includes rate increases for water purchased for resale, which was identified as a council discussion point. Administration is seeking council direction on whether to include rate adjustments for water distribution and bulk water in the operating budget. Administration has prepared information regarding the comparative rates for both water distribution and bulk water, as well as the impact of rate adjustments on users to the water system. I have that in a dashboard that I can pull up on the screen. Thank you. Before I do that, I'm just going to go over the rest of the information that's included in the report. Right now, we have a flat maintenance fee for water distribution that is $62 bi-monthly. These next two rates are actually incorrect. The water distribution for gravity-fed systems is $4.05, sorry, and water distribution for well-fed systems is $2.55. And then for bulk water, we have a monthly minimum of $10, and per cubic meter, the charge is $5.15. The per cubic meter cost of water is increasing for 20 cents for water that supplies approximately 75% of the total annual distribution. And then at a high level, I've got the dashboard actually looks at what the rate adjustments, how they would impact your average user, but you're looking at incremental revenue for every 10 cents increase in water rates of about $17,490 for gravity-fed systems, $760 for well-fed systems, and $5,500 for bulk water systems. I will note that now that the year is closed and we've looked at total bulk water revenues for 2025, we didn't realize as much as we had in 2023 and 2024. And so I will recommend if we increase rates on bulk water, that incremental revenue is not reflected in the budget, just because we're not sure that that will actually be realized based on the amounts that were sold in 2025. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up this dashboard. This is the first of two kind of dashboard things that I have for council today. And so what we've got here in the top left, you've got your current rates, and then you've got, moving over, you've got your rate adjustments. So council's able to kind of see if you put, so for example, I'm just going to put the 10 cents in both of these as is in the report itself. And then you can kind of see for low-volume accounts, how much the impact per monthly would be for user impacts on the bi-monthly bill, as well as the annual impact. And then for bulk water, you can also see low volume, moderate volume, high volume, and the potential impacts of rate adjustments. As well, at the bottom, we have some water system rate comparisons. So we've got comparisons for water systems for Town of Three Hills, Town of Trochu, Village of Acme, Village of Linden, Starland County, Wheatland County, Rocky View County. They have two different rates. It depends on exactly where the water is being distributed from. And then Kneehill County's two rates as well. And the average is about $4.11 based across those comparative rates. So on our gravity-fed systems, we're really close to the average. On our well-fed systems, we're under, but I would note that with well-fed, that's a different type of distribution system. There's a reason the rate is lower. We're not paying directly for the water that comes into the system. And then for bulk water rate comparison, we have a variety of comparators. We've got Town of Three Hills, City of Airdrie, Starland County, Red Deer County, Wheatland County, Stettler County. And the average between those and ourselves is $6.06. So our rate of $5.15, I would say, is a little bit under that average, but not unrealistically balanced. So council is able to adjust rates on gravity systems, on well systems, and bulk water all independently of each other. And if council does recommend any rate adjustments, those would come back with the master rates bylaw to be formally adopted and would be flowed through the operating budget before it comes back to council for approval.
Questions? Councillor Olson?
Yeah, so we have an 8% rate increase from Aqua 7, is that correct?
That's correct, but that's on the water that gets put into the system. So that's on a $2.10 basis. Because that's what, I think that's where we're at, or maybe $2.20. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But there's an 8% increase in that amount, or in that, the water coming into the system.
Right.
So it's not, it doesn't, so it'll be a 16-cent increase or thereabouts.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering what, if we had any idea how much per cube that was gonna cost, because obviously we're subsidizing anyways, but yeah, that was my question.
So the
you're
8% is on the $2 amount, not on the $4, because we're not paying that for the water coming in.
But it could cost us up to 16 cents on the $2.
Yes, something like
Yes.
that.
Okay.
I think it's 16 or 18 cents, one or the other.
Through the chair, our water rate from Aqua 7 last year was, and this includes a 6-cent charge for their capital equipment replacement reserve, was $3.54. And for 2025, it's $3.75.
Councillor Olson?
Also, I guess, how often do we increase these water rates to our residents? Yearly? So they're going up yearly?
Through the chair, from 21 to 22, there was no increase. From 22 to 23, there was a 10-cent increase on both bulk water and well-fed and gravity-fed. And then there was a 15-cent increase, there was a 25-cent increase on bulk water, well-fed, and a 15-cent increase on gravity-fed from 23 to 24. And then there was a 30-cent increase between 24 and 25 on bulk water, a 20-cent increase on well-fed and gravity-fed.
But it comes before council every year.
Through the chair, that is correct. All of those increases have been approved by council and directed by council.
Councillor Anderson?
Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that rate increase from the Red Deer Waters group to the G7 or the?
Okay, that increase comes from our hub, which is the Drumheller Water Treatment Plant. And that goes into the Aqua 7 system. The Aqua 7 system adds whatever costs are involved there to actually pump the water and distribute it through the commission. And then we purchase it as a county from the commission. There's only 7 municipalities that are able to purchase water from the commission, and we are one of them. So that is that's our source water, and that comes from the Drumheller Water Treatment Plant.
Just for information only, when I went to that meeting, the Red Deer Water Users Group, they have a charge for water. Do they set a charge?
No, they don't distribute anything. That's just a municipal users group.
Okay.
So that's just, what their mandate is to protect the water in the Red Deer River, to make sure that there is enough for the municipal groups that pull water from the river to use it as potable water or distribute it, whatever. And that, they don't have a charge. They stay away from the actual marketing of water. All they are is a group that protects the availability to pull water.
Thank you.
Any other concerns, questions?
Through the chair, what I'm looking for at this point is whether council would like to adjust water rates as they are billed so that those adjustments can be incorporated into the operating budget. If there are no adjustments, we move on with the budgeted revenues as they sit. But what we're looking for is that direction so that the budget can be amended accordingly.
Councillor Woodstock?
I'm under the assumption that what we need is a motion here, so I'm ready to prepare, well, I'll move that the per cubic meter cost of water to increase 20 cents for both well-fed, for gravity-fed, and for bulk. Are those the three? Yeah.
Questions or concerns? Councillor Olson?
Yeah, I hate thinking that we always have to increase here, but I do know that it's costing us more all the time, and that it is a subsidized program for our residents, so yeah, I'm inclined to think that's reasonable.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? The only concern I have is somewhere along the line, we gotta pick these costs up. I mean, we're subsidizing 700,000-800,000. The other question that I have, if somebody could explain to me, like the well water. When we have well water, why are, and they're paying a rate increase. So it's right across the board for everybody.
Through the chair, that is up to council. The two rates for well-fed and bulk water, actually for every single system, the rates are separated. So again, it's entirely up to council what rates adjustments would like to be set. If you did not want to adjust a system, the well system, that is entirely doable. Again, any rate adjustments would then be brought through in the master rates bylaw. That's when they would actually take effect. But yes, that's entirely up to council's direction.
I'm just looking at just different scenarios here for an example, like, I mean, Huxley's on well water. We're gonna give the way it sits right now, we'll charge them another 20 cents. And, correct?
Through the chair, that would be, again, up to council. This is why.
No, the way we're talking, the way
Yeah,
we're talking right now.
for the dashboard purposes, I specifically separated out gravity-fed and well-fed systems so that council is able to see the impact of adjusting those rates independently of each other, as we understand that they are different systems. And again, that's entirely up to council how they would like to see that function.
Councillor Woodstock?
There is a cost to the well system, especially in Wimborne, because I do believe that we're putting in an RO system there to take care of the fluoride issues. So that is going to increase the cost considerably. I don't know if 20 cents is going to capture that or not, but the ones that we have that are well-fed systems are basically the hamlets. Torrington is not on a well system, but Huxley, Wimborne, and that's the only two that are on well-fed. Yeah.
Another question I have is, like on the, bulk water. When people go in there, like the oil companies and everything, buy that water, are they allowed to resell that water to the oil company at a different price?
Thanks. Through the Reeve, to that question, by our bylaw, they're not allowed to. Usually is they're purchasing it to service, so there could be like that contractor that goes and services their washrooms or facilities and stuff like that. So I guess in a way, they're not going and reselling it for $6 a cube, but it's part of their contract to maintain that site, would be that purchase of water, but no. Through our bylaw, they're not allowed to sell water, neither are the residents either, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried.
Okay, through the chair, the next thing that we have is the allocation of the surplus. Right now, there is, well, going into this meeting, there was a surplus of about $139,000. This means, and MGA requires that we adopt a balanced budget. This surplus will be adjusted based on the incremental revenues for water rate adjustments and the adjustment for the expenditure for roadside mowing. That exact amount, we will have to go back in the background and adjust that budget accordingly. So what we're looking for is how council would like to see that surplus be utilized. And there's a couple different things that council can do. They can direct the surplus to reserves to support long-term infrastructure requirements. I would note that we did lose some reserve contributions this year with the expiry of a special levy, and there would be some benefit to offsetting that loss of reserve contributions to at the minimum maintain reserve contributions at last year's level, entirely up to council's discretion. They could also decide to reduce total property tax revenues in accordance with adjusting that surplus. And then there's also allocating the surplus in any other manner that council directs, including funding existing proposed projects, new initiative, or adjusting other revenues or expenses. I do have a bit of a dashboard where council can kind of see what that would look like. Not knowing exactly what the adjustment for roadside mowing will be, that dashboard becomes a little bit more of a challenge to play out because I'm not sure what that cost savings will result in. But what administration is looking for is at this point in time, and Ms. Sherlock might correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we are still able to come back to as soon as the 24th meeting for budget approval, if that was up to what council would like to see. But in order for administration to do that, we need to know where council would like to see the surplus allocated.
Councillor Anderson?
I would like to say at this point in time that with the uncertainty of what's going on in the country, both federally, possibly provincially, with the things coming up in carbon, I think that we'd be wise to put our thing into reserves to guarantee a tax benefit to people and then have to take away would not be a very good scene.
Councillor Woodstock?
Our provincial assessment numbers come in the first part of March. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. We will get those numbers at the first part of March.
Yeah, so depending on where the assessment amounts come in and what's higher, what's lower, we have to maintain that 5-to-1 ratio also. So, I mean, it's a crapshoot right now because we don't know what the assessments are going to be. And that 5-to-1 ratio really has a kick in it, because if the assessment on linear or non-res drops considerably, and if the assessment on residential increases, then we're not in a position to say that we're going to do a tax decrease because of the way the way that whole formula works. So right now, I don't even know if there's gonna be a surplus, personally.
Through the chair, what we can also do is council is able to adopt a budget as it sits, and spring amendments are allowable when we get to the point. Budget can amend the budget. Council can amend the budget at any time they wish. So there, it is possible to approve the operating budget, as we often do. We approve it in December, and then if there are any tweaks that need to be done in order to maintain the 5-to-1 ratio, in order to maintain council's comfortability with the impact on ratepayers, then reserve draws can be put into the budget, or anything can kind of be done to balance there. So council would be able to direct the existing surplus in one manner or the other, or a combination of manners. And then when we do have final assessment and we look at doing the tax rate bylaw, if something needs to be adjusted, that can be done. Council could also wait until then to approve the budget, but we do start risking, we do have an interim budget till the end of April, but there are things like the roadside mowing level of service has now been changed, and we can't go back to RFP to get even one mow done this year until the budget is approved. So the longer that council waits, the longer that that'll take to be able to move forward with general operational items. But again, that is entirely up to council how they wish to proceed.
Councillor Olson?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Woodstock there, that we don't know, and our whole goal is to try to, try to maintain tax levels at where they are for our residents, but not saying we can do that. Yeah, we're tied to the assessment. But I think for now, if you're wanting a decision, I think the best is just to put it back into reserves and wait till later.
Councillor Woodstock?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I maybe presented improperly. I wasn't saying that we can't approve the budget. I was saying that once we get into the assessments and all that kind of stuff, there probably will be an adjustment made. I'm not directing that we don't do the budget. I want to get the budget over with, and then we can do the adjustments as we need to. So I wasn't saying that don't do the budget. I was saying that what we're looking at here could maybe not materialize the way we're thinking. So yeah, and I'm in favor of putting it into a surplus reserve. I don't know if that would be the what do we call it? The income stabilization reserve that we have, but some sort of a reserve would be nice. Okay.
Through the chair, typically the default would be that revenue stabilization reserve. And then when we do go to do the tax rate bylaw, if there was an amount that, so at this time, if council took the surplus and put it straight into reserves, we're still generating the same amount of taxation revenue as in 2025. Again, that means no revenue adjustment. That doesn't mean no impact to ratepayers. But when we do the tax rate bylaw, council would see that impact to ratepayers. And if council wanted to lower total property tax to keep things in line with what they would like, then a draw from reserves could be pulled into the operating budget in order to balance everything out.
Councillor Cunningham?
So if there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion that council direct administration to move the surplus to the revenue stabilization reserve.
Any discussion, concerns? All in favor? Carried.
Okay, from my end, I think we have everything that we need from council. We will adjust the budget to increase water rates by 20 cents across the board. I will not include that in the bulk water, just as we don't think that that amount will materialize based on this year's volumes. Obviously, if we sell more this year, those will be reflected in variance reporting. We will adjust the roadside mowing level of service down to 1 mow. We will do some research in there and adjust that down to what we believe we can accommodate within the budget and ensure that we don't have budget overage when we go back to RFP for that. And then we will direct any surplus that is sitting at that point into the revenue stabilization reserve. And from my understanding, council is comfortable with us bringing that back for the operating budget proposed approval on February 24th.
Thank you.
There are two motions that are included in this report. The first one is that council approve the 2026 projects as listed in Appendix A. I'm going to just recommend a little bit of an adjustment to this one just for clarity, that council approve the 2026 projects in the amount of, let me just pull up this screen so that council can see it, because this is the updated project listing. So in the amount of $1,783,900 with funding sources as listed in amended Appendix A. So this, sorry. I should have had that in the report when I wrote it last week. I did not. Yep. It's actually in Teams. I sent it to you in Teams, no? Okay, sorry. That council approve the 2026 projects in the amount of $1,783,900 with funding sources as listed in amended Appendix A.
Everybody okay with that? Councillor Olson? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem. I would make the motion that the council approve the 26 projects in the amount of 1,763, is it 83? Sorry, 83,900 with funding sources as listed in Appendix A.
Concerns? I'd like this to be a recorded vote, please. Motion's on the floor. All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Motion approved. You good to go? Thank you very much. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Sure.
Let's take a 10-minute recess, 9:35.
That's why I couldn't see, because the sun was too bright.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back, 9:48, we'll get back into session here. 6.2, 2026, 114 Center Street, Torrington. Go ahead.
Good morning, Reeve and Council. My name is Regina Nyman. I'm the Property Tax Administrator here at the county, as this is my first time presenting. Today I'm bringing forward a proposal made by a ratepayer for 114 Center Street, Torrington. So some background information on this property. In 2008, the council acquired 114 Center Street, Torrington. They acquired it through the tax recovery process under the Municipal Government Act. This process resulted in the transfer of ownership from previous owners to the county due to unpaid property taxes. After the county became the owner of the property, after council becomes the owner of a property, council may then decide how to manage, dispose of the land accordant with the MGA, and this is under section 425 of the MGA. So council has the authority to dispose of the land acquired through tax forfeiture, including selling the parcel at a price that is close to as possible to market value. The purpose of tax forfeiture process is not to generate profit, but to address long-standing unpaid taxes, return properties to active use. Following these consideration, administration has received a written offer from an interested purchaser for a purchase price of $7,500, and this is including GST. The net price would be $7,142.86, with GST being $3,507.14. The property has been advertised on our website by the county for an extended period, with no successful sale due to its limited development potential. The land area is 306 square meters, and you can see it in this in the picture here on the screen. This is a very, very small lot, and it has major development limitations due to the TELUS box in the corner there, and just the size of it is I don't think it looks kind of big on there, but it's a pretty small lot. So in 2008, the reserve bid was set at $12,000 by motion. The current assessment of this property as of 2024 is $10,440. I did get a second opinion, and they said that the recommended listing price would be under our assessment. So taking these factors into account, in accordance with Section 425 of the MGA, council may dispose of the land acquired through tax forfeiture at a reasonable price. Administration does consider this offer to be reasonable based on the length of time this parcel has been publicly advertised, the very limited development potential, and the lack of offers received. Just to add here too, this parcel does require new service connection, so there will be an additional cost of $2,500 because of the amount of time that this has sat. Our water department did say that if there's anything there, it needs to be redone. So they would have to start that process as well. So acceptance of this offer would return the parcel to private ownership and productive use, eliminate ongoing county administrative liability and cost, including a long-standing tax forfeiture file. So if council chooses to proceed, administration will then complete the required legal steps to finalize the sale of the property. And then I also have a second motion if we wanted to go forward with that. And the motion is to cancel $22,374.55 amount on this tax roll. This property, along with lots 7 and 8, were deemed dangerous to the residents of the village of Torrington. An excavation was conducted to remove the old buildings. The amounts were added to this tax roll, and we recorded in our doubtful accounts. However, this was never brought forward by administration in the past to council to request them to be written off under section 423 of the MGA. So what this is the right to clear title after a public auction. Under the Municipal Government Act, a purchaser at the tax recovery sale acquire land free of prior encumbrances. Writing off the outstanding tax balance is required to clear the tax roll to complete the title transfer. So just to put it into easier terms, if we did accept the offer, we can't put these charges on, like, we'd have to clear them before. They have a right to have the property clear of anything prior. In a normal sale, like between two owners, if you say you didn't pay your taxes, taxes stay on there and become the new owner's responsibility. But when you have a tax forfeiture property, we have a requirement to clear everything previous, so they get the property kind of clear of everything from the past. So I have the two council options for two motions. For the motion one, which is to accept the proposal, you can add additional information if you want. You can accept the offer and instruct us, administration, to proceed with the sale. You can reject the offer and counter with the amount of your choice. For motion two, you can request additional information and approve administration to cancel the amount on the tax roll, and that would be required before any sale. So even if you reject it today, we can bring that forward again if there's another offer. Or you can cancel it and then we don't have to bring it back, but it doesn't matter. If you do approve one, we do have to approve two. So our recommended motion is that council considers the following two motions. Motion one, that council directs administration to proceed with the necessary steps to complete the sale for the offered amount of $7,500, including applicable taxes. And then the motion two is that council authorizes administration to write off the amount of $22,374.55 on tax roll 3266344230 to facilitate the transfer of title to the future purchaser free and clear of prior municipal tax encumbrances in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. Does anybody have any questions for me on all of this?
Councillor Olson?
Yeah, this seems disturbing to me that we would receive this property in 2008 and then 18 years later, we're dealing with it. And we've been, somebody could have been paying taxes to us on this. So why does it not go for auction right the next, month?
Yeah, so it went for auction and wasn't purchased. So when it went to auction, nobody wanted it. And so then the county took ownership of it. And then we've had it, then it's our responsibility to try to get rid of it. And so this property does have very limited building potential. Barb has come today if you have questions on what can be built on this property because of its size and because of the Telus box. So a lot of people have shown interest in it over the years to purchase it, but because of the limited potential, I've only been at the county in the tax roll for about 3 years, and I've had a couple inquiries. They've all fallen through due to the limited building potential.
So this did go on auction and
Yeah.
when?
In 2008, when we take it.
Oh, it did
Yeah,
go at
so as
auction
soon as-
during that time?
Yeah, in order to take it through tax forfeiture, we throw an auction. So the process is people who haven't paid, we schedule an auction for those properties, and they have up to the auction date to pay their taxes. But if they don't, then the county auctions off those properties. If nobody comes to the auction and purchases the properties that are at the auction, then the county has the ability to take them or not take them. So we have had it in the past where the county has rejected taking a property, usually because of a situation like it's a brownfield, so there might be chemical contamination. The county would take on that problem, so you would reject
But we don't
them.
use like Olds auction and advertise and.
We do it here. Yeah, we do it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I did drive by this. Yeah, it's a really
Very
thin lot. So this is a service lot as well?
It's just like, it's a regular lot. It's very small, but the lot right next to it has a Telus box on it.
Yeah.
And it's
how
large. It's,
So
yeah, I have a
did TELUS
picture, but it's not
purchase
good.
that lot? Like, it seems like a strange little area there.
It is very, yeah.
South of the arena. Like, it's just, I'm not sure why the TELUS box would be on a service lot either, but yeah.
Yeah, and we did, when this gentleman called and made an offer, we did make him talk to planning before we even brought it forward to know what the limitations are.
One of the questions I have is, we have an offer of 7,500 on it. It's been here too long. as far as I can see. The other thing is I don't think we should spend another $2,000 on it to service that lot. That should be part of it.
Oh, that's on, that would be on the purchaser.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah, so
I
he would
misunderstood
have
that?
to pay, he wants to pay 7,500 for the lot.
Plus the
But it's
2,000?
also, there's also gonna be a water charge of 2,500 to put the services back to that lot before he can develop on it.
Okay, my thoughts is it's been here too long. Counselor Hopkins?
I just have a question. Lots 8 and 9, are they to the east of 7?
Yeah. Yeah, so the one, right, but yeah, right, see that the house is on? That
Yeah.
one is 7 and 8, or 8 and 9.
8 and 9, and that
So the
house-
one that he wants is 7, and then 8 and 9 are right beside it. And in 2010, they were combined into one lot and built on.
Okay. So that house is relatively, house was built after that, the auction
Those ones didn't go for auction, just the 7.
7,
Yeah.
and
Or that I can find. This is a very old file, so it was very hard to
The
find
structure
a
that-
lot of records.
the structure that was taken down was on 8 and 9? That,
7, 8, and 9, yeah,
7,
there
8,
was
and 9.
2 buildings on there. I'm not familiar with the history of Torrington, but they were very old businesses.
Okay.
And they were deemed, I did find where our administration did say that they were very dangerous. Like there was documents on there where they were considered dangerous to Torrington, they had to be removed. And I think that there was legal process at this time between what was going on. And then the county did take responsibility to get them out of there to keep, because they weren't demolished in the time frame.
Okay.
So because they weren't demolished in the time frame, then those excavation charges are put on the taxes,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the other question I had was just making sure that the individual that has put the offer in wasn't the previous owner in 2007 and is trying to get out of.
No,
Okay,
it's a
thank
completely
you.
different person.
Counselor Woodstock?
Yeah, when I look at the map, it's an awfully narrow lot. So even for us to say that we're gonna put a building commitment on it, I don't know if we couldn't do that anyway, could we?
Good morning, Reeve Council, through the chair. We typically wouldn't do it that way, but in a case where we have a lot this small, and there are some in Torrington that are that small that are developed on, so it's not as uncommon as we think, we would require a surveyor to go in and make sure that they are actually meeting setbacks. If they choose not to or they don't want to, then that process would come through the Planning Commission if they wanted a variance, or if they wanted to make a smaller size house. So he does want to put a residence on that property. And so, again, it would be ensuring that he knows where those lot lines are and meets those setback requirements.
Okay, so what I'm gathering then, it isn't an adjacent landowner that's looking to purchase this. This is somebody outside coming in to try to put something, okay.
Yes,
Not that
it
it
is.
matters, but I would totally agree that it should be gone, because we haven't been collecting any revenue off it, and I'm just wondering if there is some sort of a way to put a building commitment on it, so, because right now at $10,500 roughly assessment, you're not gonna get much for taxes, but we're getting 0 for taxes now, so. It would be nice to have something accessible there, but I don't wanna put that on there, but I'm definitely in favor of accepting the offer at this point in time.
Counselor Olson?
Yeah, so the lot directly to the west, TELUS has that, like an ACO trailer up basically there.
Yeah,
And they own that, they're paying tax on that, correct?
yeah.
And then the lot directly west of that, who owns that? It's a
We-
private
we-
individual that just hasn't developed it
It's
or
an
whatever.
individual, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's
Yeah.
a few vehicles parked there or whatever, but yeah, okay. No, I agree, we should
Counselor
let this
Hopkins?
go.
Just for discussion purposes, I did a quick measurement on that lot, and it looks like it's about 30 by 110, 30 feet wide by 110 feet long. So it's not an overly large lot, so.
No.
Any other concerns or questions? It's like, We're not getting revenue. Counselor Hawkins.
I guess with that, I can make a motion that council directs administration to proceed with the necessary steps to complete the sale for the offered amount of $7,500, including applicable taxes. $7,500, including applicable taxes.
Perfect. So then we would need the second motion, as we can't keep the 22,000 on there from that excavation cost. So to be able to give it to him, like, or sell it to him free and clear of prior encumbrances, then we would need secondary motion to cancel the excavation cost of 22,374.55.
Those would be two motions, would they not? Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on the first one, please.
Sorry.
Any concerns or questions on the first motion? Everybody's clear on that?
Oh, sorry.
All in favor? Carried unanimously? Okay, let's go to the second one.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
Hey, no worries, no worries. You want to come sit over here? Okay, yeah. Hey. Counselor Olson.
Yeah, I would make the motion then that council authorize administration to write off the amount of $22,374.55 on tax roll 3226344230 to facilitate the transfer of title to the future purchase free and clear of prior municipal tax encumbrances in accordance with the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you for that motion, Counselor Olson. Any concerns or questions, or anybody's clear on that? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, legislative services, 7.1.
Good morning, Council. I'm here today to talk about our hours of operation. Administration has reviewed the public access patterns of our facility use here at our admin building, and what we consistently observe is that the utilization is strongest earlier in the day, with very limited activity in the final half of our hours. In addition, council and committee meetings of the whole begin sharply at 8:30 a.m., which currently aligns exactly with when our building opens. And that means residents that may want to arrive early to attend meetings do not have access to the building until the actual start time of the meeting, which can be disruptive. It can be awkward and uncomfortable for our members in order to attend the meeting on time to get set up. Earlier building access would allow our residents to arrive, orientate themselves, and access the space prior to meetings. And we believe this is particularly relevant in rural and agricultural communities where early day access aligns well with our residents' schedules. Currently, our HR Policy 19.2 addresses our hours of operation and is under review to be brought back to Council on March 24th, so that Council will maintain the full authority over our operational hours and policy alignment. So today, subject to Council direction, the intent would be to provide approximately 6 weeks of public notice with potential implementation date of April 1st, using all of our communication channels. And this proposal does not reduce our service availability and has no financial impacts. And administration would welcome council's direction on next steps.
Councillor Hopkins.
I'm in favor of switching to 8 o'clock. I had a couple people, or from 8 till 4, I've had a couple people say to me, it'd be nicer to be able to talk to staff before they have to go to work. And they said even at 4:30, they're not off work, so they don't get a chance to come in and do business at the office. So at this point, I'd be in favor of switching from 8 till 4.
Councillor Olson.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hoppins, and the best part of this is there's no financial impact.
One of the questions that I have is, all the businesses around town are basically 8 to 5 o'clock. Why are we going 8 to 4?
Through the Reeve, many businesses close during the lunch period, including other municipalities, and we don't do that. We maintain our operating hours through the full day. We find many of our clients like to come in, our residents come in during the lunch hour and early morning. We don't predominantly see very many residents, if any residents, between 4 and 5. Like between 4 and 4:30, it's pretty quiet. Nobody comes in. So I wouldn't see why that would be operationally necessary. We would tend to we'd have to stagger shifts. We wouldn't have lunch coverage. We would potentially have to close at lunch in that case in order to provide staff with that hour.
So staff is getting paid for lunch?
No, staff doesn't get paid for lunch.
But I mean, is this gonna work for, this is working for you? This
Yes.
will work, okay.
Yep, this, in the 8 to
No,
4 currently works great.
I'm just going by what businesses run, you know, they run that, they split that 1 hour at lunch, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Councillor Cunningham.
There's a business I know that would tell you he's open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., but anyhow. Yeah, so no, this makes total sense to me, and I've always kind of wondered that, being when we, you know, especially when we've had public hearings or some bigger things, you know, bigger meetings happening, we've got people waiting, so waiting outside, so totally makes sense to go to the 8 o'clock. If we wanted to continue to 4:30, extend that to 8 or longer hours, then that's what, there's gonna be a cost to that too. So, and I love that we're staying open during lunch. You know, unfortunately, you know, we're seeing some banks that are closing during lunch just due to some staffing issues that are happening. So I think this is a great idea. So if there's no further comments, I'm prepared to make a motion to provide direction to incorporate adjusted hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. into the HR policy 19-2, amending for council consideration on March 24th, 2026. With the implementation targeted for April 1st, 2026, following the public notice.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried.
No, no, we don't want to do that. No. No.
We'll bring one.
Noon somewhere.
All right, what do we got? Council committee reports? Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I've got all these pages here. I'm gonna make the Reeve really nervous here, but, so, one of the things I just wanted to touch on was I attended a Community Futures meeting on February 5th in Strathmore. I think I mentioned this before, so if I did, I apologize, but I just, again, it doesn't matter. Our Community Futures Wild Rose group did receive an award from the Strathmore and Wheatland Chamber of Commerce as the nonprofit of the year. So again, just very proud of the work that they're doing. One of the things I wanted to highlight was Kneehill County only accounts for 4% of loans in the region within Community Futures. So I don't know what we can do as a municipality, but I would really like to see that number increase substantially. So I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but that can be discussion for down the road. I just think it's a really great opportunity for people to look at it. They're saying yes when the banks are saying no. So yeah, they're doing great work down there, very busy. I think I've mentioned it before, in about the top 3 of all community features in the province. So kudos to what they're doing. Just wanted to touch briefly on the RMA District 2 meeting that I was at on Friday in the MD of Bighorn, which was awesome. Just because we went through budget, you know, I think it's, you know, you're seeing council go through the budget items line by line, and some people may not be unsure why we're doing that. think we've all said, like this provincial downloading, which I know comes from federal downloading to them, it's just becoming more and more prevalent every time we go to a meeting. And so on that day, one of the items that was presented was our president of RMA, Kara Westerland, talked about the provincial downloading of the policing costs. Again, we don't know for sure what those costs are gonna be, but it looks like it could be up to, well, they're anticipating it's gonna be up to 380.5 million in the next little while. So without knowing what that's gonna be for sure, that's why there's some uncertainty, I think, with budgeting. One of the things that Kara spoke of, and again, it's not a reflection on our local RCMP or the work that the RCMP is doing, but we want to have a voice at the table as a municipality and as the RMA. If we are going to be expected to pay these increased costs, what is it going to look like for us locally? The response time is going to improve. Is the local staffing going to improve? Are the outcomes locally going to be better? Just from serving on PAC last term and just talking to the RCMP currently, they rarely operate with a full staff here. And I think that's putting pressure on, you know, whether they're able to have holidays, just increased, I think, stress on everybody. So I think if we're being expected to pay more, we just want to make sure that our local RCMPs are staffed properly. And the ministry at this time has said the decision is final. But I think as municipalities, we need to continue advocating for that. And the RMA was very clear that they continue to advocate for that as well. So there's lots of good information on the RMA website if anybody, if ratepayers want to look into it, but it is a concern. And even what they're looking for, even in 2031, the costs are enormous. So yeah, more in store. Just one other quick one. I thought it was awesome to see John Ireland. He's the Reeve of Lacombe County, and they are really advocating about the closure of the Lacombe Research Station. And as he mentioned, it was built in 1907. Currently 112 full-time employees, 60 seasonal. They're working, there's a task force they have together. They're not thinking it's gonna be a total reversal of decision, but they're really hoping that something will come of that. So we'll see what happens, but there has been a lot of money spent on that research station in the last few years. So just to see the federal government make that decision to close, not only that one, there's other ones, I think the Lethbridge one and also in other parts of Canada too. So very unfortunate. So again, I think maybe I'll be bringing a request down the line too that we show some support to them as well. Advocacy is a lot of work, but if it can make something happen, I'm all for that. So that's it for me.
Yeah, just speaking on that last part with the Lacombe Center, we got to be very careful and wait for this to play out before we start sending stuff out. These guys are, we never did hear what the government surprise was from, or the RMA surprise was for Lacombe. They said they had news and we never did hear it.
Well, that was the update from Lacombe, that was their kind of surprise. I mean, we'd all heard about it, but that was what they were just giving us an update.
Well, I thought they were gonna talk about, the RMA was gonna talk about something they received.
Oh.
So that never came forth. But I mean, there's lots of stuff coming down the pipe and it's gonna cost a lot of money. And it's like Jackie said, I mean, the next thing is gonna be up for sale is some of these counties, if everything gets downloaded on them. That being said, any other? Councillor Woodstock?
Just thought I'd throw it out there that we did get confirmation from John Conrad, Assistant Deputy Minister from Agriculture, that the registration for, or emergency registration for strychnine was not approved by the feds. So there is not going to be strychnine available for our residents this year. They're going to try again for next year, but the federal government will not approve strychnine because of off-species issues. So just wanted to let that be known in case anybody's watching and anticipating that maybe we can control gophers this year. It's not going to happen with strychnine.
Any other questions, concerns? Thanks for the reports. What do we got here?
Section 11.
What'd you say, 11?
Yep. So I guess.
Oh, 10, let's go council follow-up action list. Anybody got any concerns about that? Councilor Cunningham?
So just a question for CEO Cochran. I know with the, there's a couple motions on there about Horseshoe Canyon, and I know we've parked that for the interim, but just wondering, I know there was some conversation towards the end of last term about an area structure plan for Horseshoe Canyon, and that we weren't gonna kind of go further into this until we had that. Can you just remind me, has that already started, or is it in motion at all, or is it just totally halted?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Through the reef to all of council, we have parked the Horseshoe Canyon ASP in waiting for council direction on what they want to do. We do have a grant that covers a high portion of that ASP. I don't have a full quote to see how much the full ASP would cost, but the amount that we have for a grant is a healthy amount to probably take care of the engineering studies. However, if council doesn't wish to move forward, we don't want to waste grant money or any money, so we're waiting for direction from council on what you want to do. And if the direction is to just leave it as a park as is for now, we will cancel that grant with the province.
Everybody okay with that? Yep. All right, let's go to, oh, any other concerns on the follow-up list? Okay. Councillor Woodstock?
I guess further to the ASP, if there will not be availability for anyone to do any projects there from outside the county until we develop an area structure plan, am I correct?
Through the reef to all of council, if somebody owns land there, they could come in and bring forward a development proposal. But no, there would be no plans for any development in that area until we do an ASP to have us really understand what can be done. That's why the engineering studies are really critical around water and what we could do in that area. So without that, it's fairly unlikely.
That's what I was kind of getting at, because right now it's our property, but if somebody wants to come in, lease some of the property and do a development there, they won't be able to unless we have an area structure plan.
Through the reef to all of council, Barb's not in the room, which would be more specific about that, but I believe if somebody wanted to lease, they could still bring a proposal forward, but they'd have to take care of the engineering studies on their own. The engineering studies wouldn't be done, so it doesn't make it as attractive as an option, because we all know engineering studies cost a lot of money. So that was one of the reasons why the ASP was being considered first, was to ensure that if anybody wanted to lease that space, they would have the services necessary to do that.
And that's what I was getting at. So it's going to be, unless we do an area structure plan, nothing's happening there at all.
Correct.
Whether we propose it or whether somebody else comes in to propose it.
Oh, look at, she just snuck in the door. But that would be correct, and I believe I hopefully I didn't make a mistake, but Barb will be sure to correct me if I did.
You said, so I don't know if you made a mistake.
Well, I said that somebody could still come and lease space.
Correct.
But they wouldn't have the engineering studies to know what can be done.
Yeah, the property that we have as a municipality down there has very limited development potential. First of all, there's a restrictive covenant, and second of all, the geotechnical would be very tricky because there's so much slumping. So there isn't a lot of space for anybody to do anything in there. But they would come through the normal planning process just like anyone else in that area. Anyone that wants to develop on these coulee lands, they always have to go through extra geotechnical information would be provided, or engineering. There is a developer in that area that has developed south of the canyon a fair amount. He's got a campground, some cabins, some of that in there. And so anybody could walk in the door and do that without an area structure plan, and they would just go through that process. So whether they needed to rezone the lands, then it would be a council decision as to whether that were to occur. But regardless, if you want to develop on hazard lands, there is more engineering and requirements that would happen with that.
So that would be an additional cost for anybody that's coming in to lease any property there.
Correct.
But if we did the area structure plan using the grant funding that we've been approved for, that would be taken care of, and it would make it a little more attractive for somebody to come in, because then it would be basically ready to develop.
So I just want to clarify with the area structure plan. So what that does is it designates uses for lands, and it goes broader than just our land. It would be adjacent landowners as well, who may or may not wish to be included in the area structure plan. But one of the things that's going to look at is servicing and what that looks like. Servicing is a huge issue there. And so again, you can have the area structure plan, which sits on top. It is a statutory plan that sits on top of the lands and designates certain uses, or it can rezone or in that area structure plan, but it's not necessarily going to be the piece that provides servicing and those types of things. So that's still going to be on a developer coming in the door unless council wants to service that area for development. But that definitely, anybody coming in or anybody that wants, and that's typically how we get a lot of things, like a big developer coming in will look around and they will find a landowner, and then they'll approach us and say, this is what we're wanting to do here. And then we look at all those other pieces. So it is something that anybody could come in the door without that area structure plan. And we would walk them through the planning process, just like we do now with any large, like the grain elevator, for example. They are still going to come through our door. There's no area structure plan up there. They can still do some of that development through the normal planning process.
Okay, Councilor Kayane.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna have a discussion on another day, so I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but yeah, and I can't change things that happened in the past, but it is unfortunate that within a year or two of the county purchasing Horseshoe Canyon, that there wasn't an area structure plan done back in the day. But I think, as Ms. Hazelton said, I mean, it's not, if someone comes knocking on the door at planning today and has this great big idea, it's not, you're not gonna turn them away because we don't have an area structure plan.
Correct.
I mean, certainly if it's a development that would be amendable to that area, I mean, it's certainly something we would look at even without that area structure plan, my understanding.
Correct.
This could be another council meeting discussion, a full day council meeting discussion. Thanks, Barb. All righty. Number 11, closed session. Motion.
I'll make the motion to move council into closed session.
All in favor? Carried. Closed session 10:26. All right, we're back in session. We'll just give the, a few seconds here for the gallery to get back in. No gallery. Do I have an
Gallery.
adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn 11:21.